Welcome to the Portland Real Estate by the Numbers podcast. I'm your local real estate data nerd, Joe Reitzig. I have been a licensed real estate broker here in the Portland metro area for over 30 years now, and I am excited to share my perspective of what's going on in the marketplace with you. We'll be looking at 10 important data points that highlight three core housing principles: current pricing and home values, affordability, and market trends. For today's show, we're going to be looking at Hillsboro, Oregon, and the 97124 zip code. Because data by itself doesn't always tell the whole story, we'll be comparing Hillsboro to three local areas: Beaverton, Tigard, and Tualatin. And then on a national level, we're going to be looking at Albuquerque, New Mexico, San Jose, California, and Boise, Idaho. Let's see what the numbers tell us. Okay, we're going to start with home pricing and values. I'm going to look at the median list price here. So what are homes currently on the market at? Right in the middle, the median. And Hillsboro's at $587,500, Beaverton $526,500, Tigard $629,250, and Tualatin is $668,700. Kind of gives you a flavor of where things are at, right in the middle of what you're going to see price point in those areas. All pretty close. Tualatin's got a bit of a higher price point there. But when we go to the national comparisons, we look at Albuquerque at $398,000, much more affordable. San Jose at $1.4 million, and then Boise at $574,000. Very similar to Hillsboro. So that's our baseline of what we're looking at, where list prices are at right now. Median list price year over year. So what have those list prices done? Have they gone up? Have they gone down? And Hillsboro is down 6%. How do we compare Hillsboro to our local comparisons here? Beaverton's down 9.1%, Tigard almost 9%, and Tualatin 7%. So Hillsboro's done pretty well compared to the rest of the areas that we're looking at here locally. But what I love to do is take a look at the 5-year growth. So we're going to look at values now, not where they're priced at, but what the actual sold values are in these areas, and look at them over a 5-year span, okay? Because as a homeowner, I want to see not just what they're valued at now, but where those values have come from the last 5 years. Hillsboro's increased 37%. Beaverton, Tigard, Tualatin have all kind of been the same, right? In that 36 to 38%. Great numbers for the most part. Let's look at nationally. Albuquerque, 61% increase in the last 5 years. That is huge. San Jose, 44%, and Boise, 59%. I was stunned when I looked at this to see what our three national comparisons were doing compared to us locally here. I thought we'd been doing great over the past 5 years, but apparently the rest of the marketplaces around us, at least the ones we're looking at right now, have really outpaced us. 61% for Albuquerque is crazy. If you're a homeowner in Albuquerque, congratulations. But 37% in Hillsboro, not too bad. I'll take that. The next item we're going to look at is affordability. So home value income ratio. I love to look at this to see where we're at as far as affordability goes. And home value to income ratio is the typical home value divided by the median household income. So how expensive is housing for local buyers? The higher the ratio compared to historical norms, the more difficult it is to buy a home here locally. Hillsboro, 4.9, not great. That says that it's for the average income in Hillsboro, it's at a 4.9, and that's not a great number for us. Albuquerque, when we look at the national comparisons, Albuquerque's right there, 4.8, getting harder for local people to buy a home in Albuquerque. San Jose, no surprises here, 10.6 on this ratio. And then Boise, 5.6, a little bit surprising. I thought Boise would be more affordable for local buyers than Hillsboro. It's not the case. So Hillsboro overall here looks pretty good. The next item with affordability is what's the average mortgage payment, right? So your principal, interest, taxes, and insurance for the average home, $34.25 for Hillsboro. That's a big number. That is a big number. When we look at the national comparisons, Albuquerque's only at $2,048 for their average mortgage payment. San Jose, not surprisingly, $94.54. And then Boise, which I keep a close eye on Boise because it has many similarities to us in our marketplace, $2,780, more affordable, quite frankly. So that average mortgage payment is a little bit scary for Hillsboro. The next item for affordability is salary to afford a home. $137,000 needed for someone on average, what they're going to need income-wise to buy a home in Hillsboro. That's awfully high. That is awfully high. Albuquerque, $81,900. San Jose, $378,200, and Boise, $111,200. All of my friends at Intel, I picked these for a reason. Intel has presence in these places, and I thought it would be a good comparison for them. But also, these are relatively similar marketplaces. San Jose obviously has that higher price point, medium list price, but that's what the salary is to afford a home in these places. $137,000 is awfully high for Hillsboro, which kind of encapsulates the issues that we have right now as far as affordability here in the Portland metro area and Hillsboro specifically. Next thing I want to go to is market trends. So June of 2022 is really when our current market took its initial downturn, right? So we're kind of looking at 2022 to see how have things developed since then. And Hillsboro is down 2.2%. If we look at our local comparisons, Beaverton's down 3.6, Tigard 3.8, Tualatin 4.5. Hillsboro's done pretty well as far as that downturn. Tells me that there's still a lot of demand for housing in Hillsboro. For sale inventory growth. So I look at this on a year-over-year basis for how many more homes are hitting the marketplace in these areas. Hillsboro's at 22% increase. So when you see these declining markets like what we have right now, right? Median list prices down. Values have stayed kind of the same. So I want to make sure we talk about that a little bit. Even though median prices for listings have gone down, values have really stayed the same and actually increased just a touch. But that inventory growth in Beaverton, Tigard, Tualatin, especially Beaverton, Tigard, has jumped significantly, 51% and 56%. So quite a bit more houses hitting the market in Beaverton and Tigard, and Tualatin for that matter. When we look at our national, Albuquerque, 71% more homes on the market right now versus this time last year. That's a big, big number. But some of that may be people in Albuquerque are seeing the market go up. It's a good time to sell. Let's get on. So I would take that with a grain of salt. San Jose, 39%. Boise, only 8% increase in inventory year over year. That tells me that that marketplace is still super hot. So if you're buying, that tells you it's going to be competitive, right? If you're selling, it's a good time to be a seller there. Price cuts are the next item that I like to look at. So price cuts as a percentage of the active listings on the market. 34% of the homes on the market in Hillsboro had a price cut last month. That's a pretty big number compared to what we're doing or what we're seeing right now as far as the marketplace starting to correct itself a little bit. 36, 35, 39% for our local comparisons. When we look at our national, Albuquerque 28, San Jose 17%, Boise 26%. All of those markets are a little bit healthier than what we're seeing right now locally. And, sellers are having to make some adjustments to what they're asking. And buyers are a lot more choosy. Hillsboro, personally, that's where I live. So I see it on an everyday basis. And we haven't seen this amount of price cuts for over a decade. So kind of interesting times to live in there. Days on market growth year over year. So how long have homes been on the market and how much has that changed over the last year? So Hillsboro, 35% increase days on market growth. So how long does it take to get a home sold? That's increased by 35%, which is a huge number. So homes are on the market longer. A little bit more difficult time to be a seller in Hillsboro, that's for sure. Beaverton, only 3%. They're getting their homes that have sold at about the same clip as last year. Tigard, 22%, and Tualatin, 33%. So some fluctuation there in the area. 35% is a big number for Hillsboro, though. If we look nationally, 12% for Albuquerque, San Jose, 7%, and Boise, 6%. Much healthier markets. There's some increase there, but not a lot. Those markets are still moving along at about the same clip as they were last year. So what does all this mean for the Hillsboro and 97124 marketplace? Home values have grown slightly. Home prices have come down by 6%, but that's actually better than a lot of our local comparisons. And the 5-year growth of 37% is still a win for homeowners. I mean, if you're a homeowner and you've had that home for 5 years or more right now, you're seeing good appreciation. Those values are going up. You probably got a lot of equity in there. Besides prices coming down, affordability is a whole different story, and that's a real problem in our marketplace, and no different for Hillsboro. Home values to income ratio compares well to the national comparisons, but the average mortgage payment and salary needed to afford a home continue to be a drag on the Hillsboro home buyers. It's just really tough for first-time home buyers to get into their home, right? It's just, when you look at the median income versus what it costs to get into a home, we're just pricing a lot of people out on the marketplace right now. So the market trends still show strong demand for Hillsboro, with value change from June of 2022 only being 2% down and inventory only growing 22%. So there's still a lot of demand in Hillsboro, right? So it's one of those things where there's still going to be a lot of competition out there. Overall, Hillsboro is seeing similar slowing to our local comparisons and is getting outpaced by national marketplaces, right? So some tough times for our local market here in Portland and in Hillsboro specifically. My recommendation, if you're buying in Hillsboro, there is competition, but it's an outstanding time to buy the dip, because once we see inventory slow down a little bit and some affordability come back into the marketplace, if that happens, prices are going to go up and it's going to get extremely competitive again, like what we saw in 20 to 22, right? We all remember that. If you're a seller in Hillsboro, be prepared to price competitively and keep a close eye on the monthly trends. Sentiment is moving fast, and being ahead of the curve is always your best chances at getting your home selling goals accomplished. That's our show for today. If you've liked this information, join us next week for another inside look into Portland real estate by the numbers. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe to receive next week's show. You can get all of today's data wrapped up into a bite-sized graphic by visiting our website, liveportland.com. That's L-I-V Portland.com. You can also message me if you'd like to get a data analysis for your neighborhood or evaluation of your home. That's all for today. See you next week.